Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Thursday, the 20th day of April, 2023. Well, happy 420 to all who celebrate. Cannabis saved my life, so I'm a bit of a cannabis activist. I wrote my first book, Confessions of a Back Porch Herbalist, about how that happened for me. It's published both on Amazon and on Books to Read, so you can get it at various booksellers. So anyway, but this is a pretty cool thing, to watch what this plant can do for people. It's amazing. It smooths out everything. It makes the body function in the way it's supposed to. So I don't know. That's my conclusion about it, at least in terms of me. So anyway, happy 420, and let's go ahead and get started here. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you've come back, thank you so much. I'd love you to click subscribe. And check out my blog it's called Stepping Aside. The web address is https, and you have to have that, the colon, the 2 forward slashes, and then www.imsteppingaside.com. And that's IMSteppingaside.com. Now, if you click on more, if you just kind of look below the video, you'll see more. Click on that and a box opens, and it gives you the web address to the website. Also, you scroll down a little bit past the explanation of what we're doing here, and you'll see some other links there. So anyhow, I guess let's get started. Allergies are going a little crazy. Juniper's putting out its pollen here, and so some other things, I guess, out there in the yard on the property. And so anyway, I'm a little sniffy today. But let's go ahead and take the first rune. The Elder Futhark rune is the one that I use for the above side of things, so the higher awareness, or soul level, if you want to call it that. Just kind of depends on how you see yourself. I see people as souls inhabiting bodies, and the higher self is still present. We may not acknowledge it. We may get caught up in the reactive ego of everything. But if we don't step back and try to understand things from a bigger perspective, that's the soul level part coming in, then I think we do ourselves a disservice. We stay in that reactive ego mode. And so the Elder Futhark rune for me represents the higher self. And so here the higher self is talking about Birkenau. And healing means the birch tree. It's fertility. It's bringing something to a fruition, and it doesn't have to be a pregnancy. It could be anything. It could be a project. It could be, anything at all. Whatever you're doing, bringing it to its conclusion. It's that energy to do that. But Birkenau is very protective. Again, it's family oriented. It's the mother rune. And so, all that you see that nurtures and grows and heals and supports is about Birkenau. And so the higher aspect of self then would be saying, well, you could be encountering something today where you need to either employ that yourself for your own issues or for someone else. So let's take a look at the Geomancy rune. Now, Geomancy is earth energies, irrespective of what you see them as. Geomancy can involve ley lines. It can involve pendulum work. It's basically when the pendulum is swinging, it's basically grabbing onto the magnetic aspect of the earth, and that's what's making the swing, I think. And it's saying yes, that's what it's doing. So it was be going this for like, no, she's full of crap. But anyway, it's agreeing with me. So anyway, let's throw down the Geomancy runes. Geomancy runes are another way of doing this. It's a very old divination system. You throw down the way I do it, I use elemental runes, and that's what I made. Here you have for fire, you have 2 dots, and here's the single dot on the other side with the glyph for fire. But it came up 2 dots when I threw it down. And so what we have here is we have Caput Draconis. Now, Geomancy is a series of 16 runes, but it's really 8, and you're getting the complement of each one to create the 16. And so with Caput Draconis, you're looking at the influence of the north node of the moon, or the future, your destiny, if you will. And its complement or opposite would be Cauda Draconis, which would mean the south node of the moon. So this would be the head of the dragon, and this would be the tail of the dragon. And so it's basically influencing with Cauda, it would be influencing its past life influence or karma or something like that. And geomancers of old, and I mean really old, hundreds of years ago, maybe thousands, who knows, they would see this as an evil influence, Cauda Draconis, which I don't necessarily agree with that. But in any event, we're talking about Caput today. So new beginnings, if you will, on the threshold of something new happening. And if with Birkenau involved, I mean, it could be some kind of healing process. We have a situation in our family right now where this could apply to that. Literally, this could apply to that. And again, you know, given that it's 420, maybe there's a cannabis component to it. I don't know. But the idea here is that we have to, you know, Birkenau is an earthy type of a rune. And so grounding our own higher awareness in healing and in positive movement and bringing something to fruition, understanding something in completion. You know, it could be like research that suddenly is revealing something. You know, that could be another, especially our surrounding healing. So medical research that comes, maybe something will come out today that talks about that there's a breakthrough, a medical breakthrough of some kind. I mean, it could be anything really. Or it could just be something in your life where you're beginning something new and a new chapter is opening, and it could have something to do with protection or healing or something like that. Let's go ahead and take care of the little more shuffling here with the cards, and then we'll lay down 3 cards minimum. We might put down more. I did the other day. If it makes sense, if I see something where I want to know a little more information about one of the cards, then I'll add a card to that card usually. And then sometimes it just makes sense to stick it at the end or somewhere in the middle. In other words, it completes the story that we're trying to tell here. Let's see. Let me get rid of this window here. But basically with, if you talk about fertility with Birkenau, what are you manifesting? What are you growing? What are you developing? And are you going to do that with something new today? I mean, it could be something just as general as all of that. So now I've already shuffled these cards once here earlier. Before I started, I have a ritual and it involves shuffling the cards. And then using a tuning fork that's tuned to the third eye, and I run that around myself to align there as well. So it's kind of a thing I do. But anyway, I like it. It seems to help get me and open up into the mood and gets the whole awareness open. So anyway, I just cut the deck and I took the lower part, and let's go ahead and see what we have. Well, right away, we have, let's see, we have a numerology of 13, which I generally look at as the master witch number, or the master witch number is a master number for me, but that's just because I was born on the 13th. But anyway, it does reduce to 4, and so we're talking again foundation and structure. It's an earthy type of thing. It can be anything about your physicality. And we end the reading here with the 5 of Pentacles, and I'm not sure. I think I'm going to leave these in the order they are. We have the card of Strength, we have the Ace of Swords, and the 5 of Pentacles here to start us out anyway. The card of strength is from the major arcana. Ace of Swords begins the suit of swords. And and I've said this before, I view the aces as cards that really hold as much weight as, or almost as much weight as the major arcana cards do. I liken them to the Fool in terms of undeveloped potential. And so I think they have a lot of power. They're said to hold all of the energies or essences of all the cards of the suit in this one card, at least in terms, well, in this case it's swords, and swords is the air element. Pentacles with the Five of Pentacles is the earth element. Pentacles reflects the earth element. So you're looking at both air and earth. Air is more masculine, more projective, whereas earth is more receptive and passive. It'd be the feminine side of self. It's that balance that we find in the geomancy runes, where you've got one side that's passive and another side that's active. We see that in the geomancy runes, Vaya and Populus. Vaya is an independent path, whereas Populus is following along with the crowd, and they're two sides of the same coin. So in a sense, you can see them as two ends of the spectrum, basically. So that's kind of the energy of the reading here. Now, with the card of strength, we'll start there. That's card 8. 8 is about material recognition and approval. Let me make sure I have because I had this turned down. Yeah, it's turned down a little bit. I'm going to turn this up. You might have to just adjust your volume here because I'm turning mine up. So if I get a little louder, that's why that happened. Anyway, the card of strength with the numerology of 8, we're talking about leadership, inner strength, external strength. We're talking about material recognition and approval. Did I say leadership? I think I did. But you can see it's a very active type of a principle. You see the goddess with the lion. Now, I'm sure that there's all elements to be found in this card, but in all likelihood, it's more a card of fire. In that she's taming the wild within, basically. So you could look at this as an as above, so below type of energetic experience here. You see the lemniscate above her head, the figure 8. She's in a bunch of green area here. It's abundant. You see the mountain in the background. I don't think you see any buildings anywhere. So she's out in nature, basically, and she comes upon her lion friend. And she's the goddess. She's got all the greenery on her crown or wreath or whatever you want to call it on the top of her head there. And she's almost like she's got an apron of flowers, doesn't she? Right there in front of her, right here. It's like it's an apron, isn't it? And here she is, she's holding the lion's head in her hand, and his tongue is sticking out. He's just so happy, that she's just loving on him. But really what this is mastery. It's inner mastery. It's strength. It's trust. It's goddess power. It's courage. It's unconditional love. And it's taming the wild within. In other words, higher awareness, doing what we're doing here with Birkenau. She could emulate Birkenau here. And she's taming the wild within. She's healing the divide that's there. Instead of it being a struggle between spirit and form, she's saying, well, no, let's transmute ego into spirit, so ego's not so reactive. He's calm. He's not trying to, in other words, he's not trying to eat her. He's calm. He's happy. And so she's basically transmuted that lion energy, the energy of Leo, into some kind of calm demeanor, where it's not the one that she doesn't have to fear this anymore. We don't have to fear our reactions because we're in control of our reactions with the card of strength. The Ace of Swords, here we have in any ace card, it doesn't matter which suit it's from, the hand reaches out from the clouds. And so it's the unseen hand. Well, where does that come from? It comes from spirit. We also see that evidenced here as the crown reaches upward to spirit. We see the crown and the garlands, but most specifically the crown indicates higher awareness. Okay, it indicates the creator, basically the creator aspect within, and higher awareness that the soul has. And basically, when you look at the ace, it's the number one, and so you're looking at the genesis of everything, the beginning of all things. And again, although it doesn't align with the elemental influence of Birkenau, you're still looking at new beginnings here and also here of some kind. And what the Ace of Swords is suggesting that this is new perception, new awareness, new basically the air element and swords is about the intellectual capacity of the individual, the intellectual aspect of self. And so you're talking about justice and communication and balance and fairness and honor and dignity and honesty and deception, conversely. And so when it's like when you look at the Queen of Swords, she's not going to listen to anything that isn't truthful. She's going to cut through the crap of things, and she's just going to say, listen, either tell me the truth or get out of my face. It's that kind of attitude with the Queen. She's willing to help, willing to give you her advice, willing to do what she needs to do for you, but you have to be honest with her. She's thought to be the witch, which is typical of witches. Witches don't suffer fools. It's just the way it is. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your personality is like. I don't know anybody that will do that. It's just like, all right, bring me your truth or don't bring me anything at all. And the thing with the Ace of Swords, if we're talking about this in terms of the and relating it, in other words, to the card of strength, the inner truth of things is higher awareness. That's the real inner truth. The struggle that we have here in form is not so much to have the experiences we're having, but how are we processing them? How are we seeing them? What are we truly learning? Are we staying in the muck of the ego? And we talk about this all the time. That's really the theme of this reading, is the difference between higher awareness and seeing it from that perspective and the lower form, the lower vibrational ego form. That's basically the dichotomy that we experience here. And that's the struggle. That's the inner struggle, to be able to step back and not judge, and understand all of the aspects of what's going on without necessarily taking a side, right? And getting your own emotions out of the mix, because that's where you get into the judgment of things. Also with the air element, you can get into judgment. And here we're saying we're going to start from the standpoint of higher awareness. And I think that Birkenau, and I think Caput Draconis also works well with both cards, because there is a sense of transformation here with both cards. When you're transmuting ego into spirit, I wrote a book called recently, well, a while back, but it's not the most recent book, but the one before that was called Shifting Perception. And it's about how to understand that and what kinds of statements you can make, what kinds of meditations you can do, journeying exercises, the whole affirmations, all the things you can do to get yourself into that higher level vibrational mindset and transmute those egoic reactions into that. You decide how you see things. The situation itself cannot be the deciding factor of how you see things. And that's a tough thing to do, especially if you're struggling and you're dealing with something that's really serious. But at the same time, with the Ace of Swords, it gives you the idea that, hey, I might have this way of seeing something, but now some new information has come into play, and I can change those perceptions at any time. I can see this from a different perspective. So there could be something that's coming in where, for you today, where, at least with the first two cards, where some inner strength is going to have to take place, where you don't react in a way that can help muddy the situation, in other words, where maybe you keep your own counsel for a little bit and you get some more information before you get all reactive about what you're hearing. Maybe it's not about demanding this or that, but asking questions, getting clarification. That's another thing that the Ace of Swords could be indicating, that you need more clarification on something that gets the ego out of it. What, in other words, what are the real facts that we're dealing with here? What's the real truth of the matter? And you can look at the Ace of Swords that way. Now, what all this may be involving, and we actually could have started with this card. I could have moved it around and said, here let's start with the 5. But here we have the 5 of Pentacles. We see 2 people walking by what appears to be a church. And they're in the snow. They're leaning against the wind, it looks like. They're barefooted. One's got a bandage on his foot. He does seem to have, well, no, the other foot is bandaged too. It's just that it's blue and it's hard to see. But it doesn't look like that's a boot. It looks like there's another bandage on his other foot as well. There's a bandage on his head. The taller one has a cloak that he's pulling close around to try to shield himself or herself against the wind. I've always really read this as a woman because of the dress, but it may not be. And then here you have either, her husband or a son or a friend or somebody, but I interpret the guy on the crutches as the guy on the crutches. And so you have these people that are walking by. Maybe they don't notice, obviously there's been a change in their status, right? And they don't have a home anymore, maybe. They look like their clothing is tattered. So maybe they're homeless. They are not paying attention to the fact that there could be help back here, or maybe it's that help will not help them. Either way, you can look at this both ways. But here, something has changed in their life. 5 is about change. It's also about protection. It's the pentagram, and it's also about maybe some momentum, innovation, variety. So it can be in a lot of different things. The 5 can, but I think here there's been some change that has created some destitution, and the need for healing. Again. Birkenau is the family, and so maybe there's somebody in your family or somebody close to you that's going through something now that's happened that's been traumatic for them, or it could be you. And what the Ace of Swords and Strength are asking is for you to see the change, see the unfortunate experience here, maybe from a different standpoint. Maybe it's the beginning of something better. In other words, maybe there's a door. In other words, they could be walking by, but as they walk by, we don't see a doorway here. But maybe somebody comes outside the door and opens the door and says, hey, we can help you. Help is available. But right now, they're so caught up in what's going on with them, understandably so. They're dealing with so many challenges here, both health-wise and weather-wise. But it's basically, it's like when it snows and we can't get out of the driveway because we can't get the snowblower started or what have you, or we just haven't, it's just been snowing and we can't get the driveway cleared. And if something were to happen here and we need to go to the doctor or the hospital or whatever, that's going to make that challenging, right? And so that's what I mean about external types of challenges that are impacting whatever it is that you're going through. It reminds me of maybe like, wasn't there a hurricane or some kind of weather event in South Florida? Now they don't have gas. And so I was looking at the news yesterday about that the gas stations are out of gas down there in that area in Southern Florida. And while I guess the governor's off promoting a book or something, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But everyone's saying, where's the governor? Where's the governor? Because nothing's happening. And maybe today something might happen. But as of yesterday, it wasn't. And so here you have a calamity that's made worse by inaction, right? And so, and not being able to plan for what could happen. That's the thing. When you put people in charge, is because they can plan for stuff like that. Well, if you've got somebody that can't seem to do that, then I don't know what they're doing there, right? Other than their own thing. And so here with 5, again, something has happened and you need to have the inner strength to control the reactions that you're having and to try to see things from a more realistic perspective that doesn't get down in the ego, that doesn't get down in the fear, and just simply react, but to try to source out some kind of solution. That would be one way of looking at that. And this Ace of Swords is suggesting that that's possible, that a solution is definitely possible to what's happening here. Either noticing that there is help on the other side of that stained glass window, or to understand that there isn't, and that you need to find another source, that you need to find something else that can help you and can give you a little more clarity about what's going on. Because I keep coming back to this and I keep hearing the word clarity in my head. So there's clarity involved here that doesn't exist right here. And this could be a situation that's completely beyond your control, or beyond the control of someone you know. Maybe you're the one that can offer some solutions. Maybe you're not, but maybe you could say, well, you might try this agency or this doctor or this lawyer or whatever. You might look in those directions or something. But again, if we're just talking about a situation you're dealing with, and you're not on the other side of that for somebody else, then obviously something's happened. But there is a different perspective you can have about it. And you can control the ego within and the reaction within to try to see things from a higher perspective so that you can get through this process of healing that you need to go through. Because clearly there's some healing that needs to take place. Now, Birkenau is saying that's going to come, though, from being able to get outside the norm of the reaction. And because that's our norm, isn't it? That's what's normal, to react and to freak out and to, be all worried and all of that. And maybe rightly so. But at some point you got to come back to earth and you got to say, all right, what do we do now? It's like when I finally received the diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis years ago. That happened. I think I finally got diagnosed. I think it was, what was it, in 2001? And oh my God, what a bunch of nonsense. I had 3 different appointments with 3 different doctors because they're like, oh, we can't see you for 40 years. It's like, no. I need to be seen now. And I didn't have a doctor that was referring me to anyone to speed up the process. I was basically on my own, and I knew this is what I had. I knew it. And so I'd done some research. I'd read some things, and it was clear to me that that's what was going on with me. And so I finally got in to see somebody, and you listen to the stuff that comes out of their mouths, and it's like, okay, I'm not feeling very positive about this. And it turned out it was just the doctor I had. Eventually I would go on to have 6 different doctors. Because he left, I went to someone else. He left, I went to someone else. I didn't like him. I went to someone else, and then he stopped being. He decided to drop the arthritis part, the rheumatology aspect. He was also an allergy doctor, which I think that there's allergy involved in that, but it's autoimmune stuff, so that's why. But anyway, when you do that and you seek out solutions, sometimes you don't find them right away. And for me, it took becoming a cannabis patient in order to actually go into remission. I don't know. Those drugs didn't work for me. Now, for some people, I knew other people with RA that were well controlled by those medicines. And so for a lot of people, they work really well. Whatever my body chemistry was, though, none of it helped me. And I stayed severe for, 13 years at least, maybe 15. And so then I became a cannabis patient. I made my medicines, and anyway, I went into remission, and I'm not on any of those drugs now. I don't even test positive for rheumatoid factors. So healing is possible. And so, but a lot of it has to do with your mindset. So whether it's physical healing or emotional healing or whatever, mindset is involved. How you see everything is literally half the battle for a lot of different things. And so And so you find that inner strength within with the card of strength here to be able to control the reaction, the fear, the all and the freaking out and all of that about whatever's happening in your life, and let the new ideas come in and consider them from the standpoint of how can I heal with this? How can I bring something to its conclusion? That's another aspect when we talk about bringing something to fruition. Well, maybe you're bringing a situation that's not healthy to an end. You see what I'm saying? And you're doing that by getting new ideas. Maybe you get that from, maybe reading an article or reading a book or talking to friends that have had similar experiences, or going and seeing someone that's professional who can give you some other ideas about what's going on for you. But again, this may just simply be a change in physical circumstances, and it just is showing the intensity of it this way. So if it's not a health issue, it could be just a change in circumstances in your life. Maybe a job loss, maybe if you were in a hurricane, you lost your home. Significant change has happened though, and I think that's pretty clear with this card. And I'm just going to go ahead and stick it in the front because I really think it belongs there. But first, before you can even hear something else, you have to control the reaction within. You have to control that ego, the ego sense of self within, that where all you see, all you're doing is reacting. You're not really listening, and you're not finding out what the real truth is about something. And finding out what resources you do have available to you. And so I think that if we start it that way, it makes it a whole lot simpler to look at here. So we begin with the 5, a big change in circumstances. Control the reaction within, and that way you're able to listen to new ideas and maybe gain a different perspective on something that has happened here. Maybe here it seems like there's no solutions, but the Ace of Swords is suggesting yes, there is. And so let's just leave it at that. Let's leave it at that type of general thing. Something's happened, control reactions so that you can then explore new ideas about it and find some solutions about it. So just a real simple one here, I think, today. And then, with Caput Draconis, then something new can happen, maybe. Out of this experience, maybe there's something new ahead that's part of your destiny that you were supposed to do in life, and you need to go through this process in order to ready yourself for something like that. That could be another way of looking at this. I know it's tempting when life shifts on you to just fall apart. But the one thing they're not doing is they're not sitting down. They're continuing to move against the elements, against the challenges, even if they don't see what's here, or even if this has rejected them, whatever's behind that window. It doesn't matter because they're continuing to press on in spite of circumstances. So there's that element of that in there as well. Hanging in there and controlling the reactions and trying to get above it all so that you can get out of the emotional side of things and be able to then see things in a realistic perspective. So several ways to say this, but I think we come out with the same thing. And again, we look at these difficulties that we go through in life. Once we're on the other side of them, we may have a different perspective about it. Well, this is suggesting that maybe you need to try to have that different perspective while you're in it. And there's a way to do that, and that's controlling the reaction or the ego within and seeing things from a higher perspective. So anyway, that's it for a Thursday. Well, thanks so much for watching. And again, click on more below the video to find all the links and all of that where I'm at and what I'm doing and all of that. have a good weekend. We've had yesterday and the day before it was spitting snow. It's like, come on. I think it got down to 25 last night. So, I don't know. Spring is, there's a joke in Central Oregon where there's two seasons. There's winter and there's August. And if you want to add a third, there's fire season. And so where you have ground striking lightning and fires start, right? So you never know here on the high desert what weather's going to be like. So when everyone says, "Oh, well, first day of spring," and it's like, yeah, right. Just go away. It's not true. Not here. We're too high up. We're at about 3,000 feet above sea level. You go to Bend and it's 5,000 something above sea level. So I don't know. We're just not. It's a combination of desert and mountains, and I don't know. The weather is just, you never can tell. You just never can tell. And so although we see evidences of spring, the daffodils are starting to bloom. The tulips are coming up, but they haven't started putting up tulip heads yet. I don't ever expect that stuff really until May, but usually we'll get a little bit. My forsythia is starting to bloom and stuff like that. But and I see that I see blooms starting to form on my crabapple trees, but the rest of them won't do this until May because it's just not, it's too cold here. The weather's not stable enough. And so hopefully, you've got a little better weather where you are, and you're starting to see, spring is in full bloom and the flowers are blooming, and it's wonderful where you are. Here is still deserty and sagey and junipery, and nothing's really growing so much yet. But and the garden doesn't start until the 1st of June, so that's just the way it is here. And then you might still have to cover at night. It just depends. So it's a miracle we get anything at all, really. But we hang in there. We do it every year. We garden every year, and we grow enough for winter, so we freeze it or whatever. It's just what we do. We've been doing it forever. So anyway, we wouldn't know what to do if we weren't doing that, especially now that we're retired. So it's like, what else do you have to do, But anyway, thanks for watching. And again, if you're going through something today, just try to contain the ego about it and the reaction about it, and so it can open the door to new ideas and new solutions. So anyway, have a good weekend. We'll talk again on Monday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.